Hey now, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Welcome back to hour number 2. Let's go back live. Trump's still speaking from the Oval Office with the Iraqi Prime Minister. Let's listen to that live.
I know there's all sorts of conspiracy theories going along, and I don't think the FBI. I think the FBI is wasting their time if they're doing that.
On the prior question, the Hormuz Strait whole idea for you, that's dead now. That's completely gone.
No, I just told you. You have Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait, primarily, and then others. I spoke to all of them, and they would love to invest more money in the United States at record amounts, and that would be very acceptable. And this way, there's no fee. I don't like the concept of a fee, but at the same time, it's not fair that we're protecting this strait for the entire world, for China and everyone. I don't mind protecting it for China. I don't mind protecting it for anybody, but it's unfair that we're not in somehow compensated. And we've been doing this for many years. It's bothered me 25 years ago. It bothered me. During my first term, I was doing things like you have to invest in the United States. But by doing it that way, there's no fee. They're investing and they're getting a return on their money, and it's good. But they're going to be making massive investments into the United States, and I like that much better.
President Trump.
Mr. President, can I ask you a bit about the meeting you had today, when you discussed OPEC? There's been some reporting that Iraq is pushing for changes to OPEC, a larger share, and even that they might consider leaving.
The gentleman right here, because here he is. Would you like to know about it?
Are you considering, Mr. Prime Minister, leaving OPEC, or are you pushing for changes within it? And Mr. President, would you support this?
Well, I support him. I supported him very early I endorsed him, something I rarely do, but I've had great successes endorsing. We just had Colombia, which was a big one. Argentina was a big one. We had many. I've endorsed, I think everybody I've endorsed from a foreign standpoint, they just win.
Yeah.
And, I've been hearing great things. I'm a student of a lot of history, and I do know a lot about the history of Iraq. And I've watched what was happening in Iraq with the elections. And I put a very strong endorsement out because I was very unhappy with the man that was supposed to win the election. And this great gentleman, I think he's going to end up being a great leader. He won. So I'm very happy about that. As far as OPEC, that's his decision, and you might ask him that question.
لا أوبك احنا أحد البلدان المؤسسة لها.
We are one of the countries that established OPEC.
لكن نريد حقنا وحصة منصفة للعراق.
We need like a fair share for Iraq.
العراق حارب داعش.
Iraq fought ISIS.
والإرهاب بأجمعه.
And terrorism at all.
وبدعم الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية.
Support of the United States of America.
وهذه الحرب مع داعش.
This fight with ISIS.
كلفتنا نفقات كبيرة.
It cost us like huge amounts of money.
ودمرت البنى التحتية العراقية.
Destroyed the Iraqi infrastructure.
مقدار الضرر اللي أصاب العراق.
The damage that really was against Iraq.
أكثر من 400 مليار دولار.
Is more than $400 billion.
لليوم بعض العراقيين مدن مدمرة.
Till today, like some Iraqi cities are totally destroyed.
ويسكنون في مخيمات.
They're like live in camps.
والآن لدي خطة أعيدهم إلى دورهم.
I have a plan to get them back to their homes.
نريد حصة منصفة للعراق.
We need a fair share.
لا أكثر من ذلك.
We need a fair share.
Because if you remember, even though I was a civilian and had no thought of running for president, I get a disproportionate amount of publicity, as you probably heard. And I used to say, don't go into Iraq. Don't attack Iraq. Frankly, they attacked the wrong country. And they did a lot of damage. Yeah.
Thank you. Given how the Iranians have been behaving, do you have any regrets about lifting the naval blockade or giving the sanctions waivers?
No. I gave them a chance. I wanted to give them a chance at making a deal. We had a deal 2 days ago. It was done. And then all of a sudden, they couldn't do it. They didn't like something about the deal. They couldn't do it. And they shot first, and that was a big mistake that they shot first because we have been knocking the hell out of them. They're very difficult people, 47 years we put up with it. The SS Cole, you go back all the way, thousands of people, thousands of Americans were killed, a lot of soldiers were killed. A lot of soldiers are walking around or not walking around. I mean, they've been so badly injured, the arms, the legs, the face, with the Soleimani, with the bomb. They call it the roadside bomb. Most people call it the roadside bomb. It's a disaster. And I killed him in my first administration. Had I not, it might be a different story today. He was a mad genius. He was probably a madman, but he was a general, and he had total control over the country. And I actually think the leaders of Iran were afraid of Soleimani. But I killed him. And by the way, with him went a very bad person also. They happened to be meeting each other at the airport. And a very bad person from Iraq happened to be a leader of Iraq, happened to be killed in that same incident. So I don't know if I did you a favor or not. I've never asked you that question. You probably would know better than me. But no, I think that what we've done to Iran is we've taken away almost all of their military capability. Explain. He has to hear that. Go ahead.
هو بيسأل عن قاسم سليماني وأنه كيف تم قتله على يده في الولاية الأولى له في عندما كان رئيسا للولايات المتحدة. فالفكرة هو طبعا كان شخص ذكي جدا وعبقري لكنه كان شرير بنهاية المطاف. وفي حادث استهداف وقتل عراقي كان في صحبته، كانوا يلتقوا في مطار في العراق في بغداد. فهو بيسأل هل هو كان عملكم خدمة أم لا؟ ما هي النظرة بالنسبة لمقتل سليماني؟
أنا في ذاك الوقت لا أمارس السياسة.
At that time I was not in politics.
وأريد كل جيتي نتحدث عن المستقبل إيش راح نسوي.
My visit, like I'd like to talk about the future.
شبعانين من ماضينا القديم.
Like we are fed up with the past.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kurdi, sir. Mr. President, thank you for your time. Last year in May, the Prime Minister of Kurdistan region, Masroor Barzani, signed about $110 billion in energy deals with U.S. companies here in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Mr. President, if Baghdad and Erbil work together better, that investment could grow. What is your message and advice to the leaders in Baghdad and Erbil to work together? Why I'm asking this question? Because you are our miracle makers, Mr. President.
I love this question. It's my favorite question so far, by far. Thank you very much for the question. Look, Baghdad, I think, and I and this country, we're going to make some tremendous music together. We haven't been dealing very much over the last 4 or 5 years with the previous administration. Iraq has tremendous potential because of their oil and because of other things, but because of their oil. And we're going to be doing a lot of deals. We're going to create a lot of jobs for both countries, and we're going to be taking out a lot of oil. A lot of oil is coming out, and the American companies are doing it. Mostly American companies now. They don't want to do business with others. They want to do business with America, and that's good. And that's one of the reasons that I felt so strongly that this was going to be a great prime minister, and I fought for that.
How would you describe your relationship with Kurdistan regional government at this time? Because Prime Minister yesterday had a statement and fully support you.
كيف ترون علاقتكم مع كردستان اليوم لأنه السيد كرئيس وزراء؟
أنا أنظر للعراق جسد.
I look at Iraq as a body.
وكل رقعة جغرافية في العراق هي عضو من جسدي.
Each part of Iraq is part of my own body.
فما راح أميز عضو عن آخر.
I would never distinguish between any organ.
ولا يمكن أن أقطع جزء من جسدي بيدي.
And I cannot cut off any part of any organ from my own body.
كردستان جزء مهم من العراق.
Kurdistan is such an important part of Iraq.
لا يختلفون عن البصرة وعن المحافظات الأخرى.
No different than Basra and other provinces.
But because such nice things were said about him, that means he likes the man that said those nice things.
President Trump, Thank you so much, Mr. President. I have a question for you, and I have a question for Prime Minister. The first question, Mr. Prime Minister, why did you choose the United States as your first trip abroad? And what steps, concrete steps, do you take when you go back to Iraq to make sure that the agreements you are reaching in Washington, D.C. implemented?
أنا ورثت بلد ثقيل.
I inherited such a heavy burden country.
وأنا كماجستير مالية.
I have a master's degree in finance.
حللت الوضع الاقتصادي للبلد.
I analyzed the economic situation of the country.
هذا الثقل يراد معي شريك استراتيجي يحمله معي.
With this burden, I need such a strategic partner to really lift this burden.
وأهم شريك استراتيجي في العالم.
The most important strategic partnership in the world is the United States of America.
فلم تكن زيارتي عابرة أو من فراغ.
It wasn't just like any visit or I came out of.
ولم تكن عاطفية وإنما عقلية.
It's not emotional. It's about mind.
Inflation slowed to 3.5%.
Yeah, thank you.
Will this trend hold now that strikes on Iran?
I think so. I think it's going to, inflation's down. We inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years. It was the worst in the history of our country from Biden, Sleepy Joe. He might have been sleepy, but boy, he could create inflation like nobody. And I inherited that, and I got blamed for it, and it's not my fault. We are putting it to sleep. And we've done a great job, Scott and Howard and Marco and even Pete, because he's watching his dollars, right? But they've done a fantastic job. We've all done a fantastic job. So we had the worst inflation in history and the history of our country. I mean, we had months where it was 9 and 10%. And now we have a report just came out. It was just released. Thank you for bringing it up. But the report was incredible. Inflation is way down. That means prices are coming way down, and we're doing a great job. Remember that for the midterms. I say to that camera, remember that because nobody else could do it. Prices are way down. Prices are coming way down, and we're going to bring them much lower yet.
President Trump, around the world and around the nation are anticipating your big announcement on Thursday night regarding election machines and integrity. Can you give us sort of a sneak peek about what to expect and tell the
Well,
audience
I'd rather
America?
save it. It will concern that subject, and we'll have a couple of other things to
Why
say
should people
also.
watch, though?
But I'd rather save it, but it's really big news. It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up. But that's what we're going to be talking about Thursday is it doesn't get bigger because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country. We'll be discussing other things too, but it's going to be a very big announcement. Yeah.
Mr. President, your administration pushed hard to shape Iraq's leadership and tied U.S. support to disarming Iran-backed factions. With the September 15th deadline weeks away, what happened in Baghdad misses it? And does the U.S. troops withdrawal from Kurdistan region still proceed on schedule?
I think everything's on schedule. We have a great, here we are. I mean, we're right now, I even called for a lunch that wasn't scheduled, okay? So in that way, but no, I don't think I've ever done that where we didn't have lunch. I said, let's have lunch. You know why? Because I like them. I like them. So I think that's all going to work out very well. Yeah.
Sir, do you want this Russia sanctions bill signed within the next week or two, and will you sign it?
Well, I know that Lindsay wanted it very badly. I think they may be adding Iran to it. They're going to add Iran, which is a very big thing. If they did that, they may add Hezbollah too. Just put them if you do business with Hezbollah. So we're looking at that, but they're seriously thinking, and this is in honor of Lindsay. This was his thing. He wanted this more than any other thing. You know how he felt. And there's a good chance that it gets done, but they'd like to add Iran, and they'd like to add Hezbollah to it. That's what I'm hearing. So.
And if that's secondary sanctions on China, India, Europe.
Well, we'll have to look. That hasn't been discussed.
Mr. President,
My question for you, the Prime Minister, Ali Zaidi, has launched a campaign to bring weapons held by militia under the control of the state. How does your administration support him to accomplish this vision? My second question, how do you envision the future relations between Kurdistan region and Iraq?
I think everything is going to work out. I think the Middle East believe it or not, is coming together. We're getting rid of the bully of the Middle East. Iran was the bully of the Middle East. They bullied Iraq. They bullied every country. There was fear all over the Middle East with other countries. I understand that, but there was fear. But there's no fear anymore because their military capability has been knocked to hell, and there's no fear. I think the Middle East is coming together like it's never come together before. You can't have a dominant factor like Iran that would kill 52,000 protesters. You know, they killed, nobody likes talking about that. I don't like talking about it. They killed 52,000 protesters. So the bottom line, all regions, I believe, are coming together. And I think it's going to be, this is going to be one of the great leaders right here. It's going to be one of the great leaders in the Middle East. Just explain that, please.
أعتقد أنه الآن الشرق الأوسط قد تم ترتيب أوضاعه لأنه إيران ضعفت الآن وهي كانت تتنمر على الجميع فالآن انتهى هذا الدور ولا يمكن أن نسمح لقوة واحدة أو بلد واحد بأن يهيمن على كامل المنطقة يعني الناس يغفلون عن أن إيران كذلك الحكومة الإيرانية قتلت 52 ألف متظاهر في إيران طبعا نحن لا يمكننا أن نحن لا نتحدث عن ذلك وأنا نفسي يعني أنا الرئيس أكره أن أفكر في هذا الأمر لكنهم كذلك والآن انتهى هذا الدور ولم يعد لإيران أي دور في التنمر على أي من جيرانهم.
I think we could go into this for a long time, and the bottom line is that we have a fantastic relationship with many countries now. I just came back from NATO. Many of you were there, and you saw how that worked out. It was a phenomenal. It was a love fest, to be honest, and they loved the United States. They even like me, but they love the United States. And we're going to cut costs there by hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe. But the NATO event was incredible. Today's event is incredible. This is a potentially really great country, and many people would say it's a great country. We're helping it. We want to help it. We have a fantastic relationship with the new prime minister. He's a strong person. He's a very brilliant guy. He's very much acknowledged. Or he couldn't have won that election. That was a highly competitive election, and he went out and won. And it's a big story. I mean, it's a big, big story. And I just want to say that the United States has never done better. We're doing well. You know, more people are working today in the United States than at any time in history. We have more things being built. Factories, plants, AI, automobile plants are being built at record numbers, more than we've ever had ever before. The tariffs have been used very judiciously and properly, and companies are pouring in, and countries are pouring into this country to build factories because when they build them, they have no tariffs. And we have numbers $19.2 trillion. As an example, under Biden, it was less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We're at $19.2 trillion for 12 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Our relationship with Iraq is, I would say, it went from being not so good to being outstanding. And we're going to have a long-term relationship with Iraq. We're going to have a long-term relationship with a man that will be a great leader. Mark my words. I knew what I was doing. This man is going to be a great leader in the Middle East, beyond Iraq. His influence is going to spread all throughout the Middle East, and we're very happy about it. And we're very happy to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Today, I don't think there's anything much else you can ask us. This is a very important meeting. It's something I've never done before. No lunch was scheduled. I said, let's have lunch. I've never done that before. Sometimes we'll have a lunch scheduled, but I've never done this, right, Susie? This is a first. So I have no idea what we're going to be eating, but it'll be fine. But we're doing it because we like the people that we're with. Thank you very much.
All right, so that's a wrap for the president. Just in time for us to handle some business, if you know what I mean, as Dr. Dingling says. We, couple things to point out there. One on Lindsey Graham. Two, on a 20% toll he discussed when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. So it seems the president would like to be reimbursed for the work, if you will, that we've done in that region and really helping the Middle East out from the Gulf states to Israel to everybody else. And he says, hey, we've spent a lot of time and treasure out in that part of the world. And, you know, you might need to pay up a little bit so we can recoup some of our funds. But he's got an interesting idea to make that happen. We'll talk about all that next. You've now got an update from the DOJ on their fraud crackdown in what is that? Bentonville, Illinois? Illinois?
Bensonville, looks like.
Bensonville, that's right. That's what it is. Bensonville, Illinois. So apparently it's wild because it's like they're popping up just every time they do this, one of these press conferences, they're in a different state. And honestly, some of the stories that they relay are pretty wild when you listen to the actual mechanics, the actual details of the fraud. Is that what they're doing right now? Are they laying out the charges and what the fraudsters did? Can we, is that what they're doing? Can we dip into that just for a minute? I'm not going to carry this along, but just...
Twice the alleged profit from the fraud.
Okay, here we go.
Boise Cascade was not the importer or the customs broker in this scheme, but they sought to profit from illegally imported birch plywood while displaying willful blindness towards its illicit origin, robbing American loggers of their livelihoods in the process. Let this serve as a warning. If you ignore supplier red flags to pad your margins, you will be held accountable. In May, as another example, 2 Canadian steel companies and their president agreed to pay $19 million to settle False Claims Act allegations of misreporting origins to evade anti-dumping duties, a tactic that artificially deflates prices and suffocates American steel mills. The scale of these schemes can be massive, but so is the department's response. In May, Perfectus Aluminum, Inc. agreed to pay more than $549 million to settle allegations that they knowingly avoided duties on 2.2 million aluminum extrusions that were disguised as pallets. This represented the largest civil customs settlement in False Claims Act history. Furthermore, we are aggressively prosecuting the individuals responsible. In December, department prosecutors in San Francisco charged 2 businessmen and a Chinese national for an elaborate transshipment and shell company scheme to evade duties on quartz, cabinets, and ceramic tiles. Corporate structures will not shield executives from personal criminal liability. Trade fraud is also fundamentally a matter of public safety, and this cannot be overstated. Lying to customs means skipping vital health and consumer protections. Consider the April sentencing of Royal Sovereign International, Inc. for willfully failing to report dangerously defective imported air conditioners to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Those AC units were linked to multiple fires, and tragically, a woman died and her children were injured as a result. Royal Sovereign was ordered to pay an $8 million criminal fine and restitution. Lying to the government directly introduces hazardous goods into American homes, and all should know that doing so is a fast track to prosecution. Perhaps most importantly, we are focused on eradicating forced labor, which traps nearly 30 million people globally and generates an estimated $236 billion in illicit profits each year. This is a profound humanitarian tragedy, and its economic ripples wash directly onto American shores. American workers cannot and should not have to compete with the economics of modern-day slavery. We will not tolerate these goods entering U.S. commerce. To build on these successes of our Trade Fraud Task Force, we are announcing 2 important additional steps today. First, the department is formally establishing the Global Trade and Commerce Enforcement Section as a dedicated litigating component within the Fraud Division to lead this fight. This new section is the department's front door for criminal trade and customs fraud enforcement, including external revenue evasion, forced labor and global supply chains, health and safety violations, and trade-based money laundering. Second, alongside DHS, we are releasing a seminal comprehensive resource guide to trade fraud enforcement. This guide puts our cards on the table. It outlines the specific fraud typologies we investigate and is designed to give everyone operating in the global trade space a transparent, multifaceted look into how the federal government evaluates supply chain integrity, offering a roadmap for preventing and remediating customs violations before federal law enforcement knocks on your door. Our message to corporate America is simple: assess your supply chains now. Under DOJ's corporate enforcement policy, companies that voluntarily self-disclose, cooperate, and remediate can secure a declination. Make no mistake, this $1 billion milestone is a baseline, not a finish line, and we are just getting started. The systems and data pipelines we built over the last year are now fully operational. To the fraudsters who think that they can slip under our radar, we are dedicated to finding you and bringing you to justice. And now I'll turn the podium over to United States Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, Andrew Boutros.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So this has to do with alleged. You remember when we used to talk about Chinese dumping of like Chinese steel and stuff like that? It seems to be that that's what's going on here, that the Department of Justice is going after these countries and these bad actors who are dumping products into this country, lying about what they are or how safe they are, and causing the price of American goods to or the overall price to be artificially deflated to where American companies and American products can't compete with them and thus can't sell them.
Yeah, and as a result, it's also a humanitarian.
Yeah, with you've got obviously the danger that it puts. He talked about the woman that died, but the humanitarian aspect of having to compete against literal slave labor, labor trafficking that's happening all over the world. It's been happening in this country thanks to Biden's open borders. The fact that they're using slave labor keeps their prices down on their products as well, and then they import them into this country. Companies happily accept them because they say, okay, well, we can get this at a fraction of the price, turn around and use it, whether it's components or, as he stated, tiles or wood or whatever. What was that type of wood he was talking about?
Birch plywood, and
Birch plywood.
Stuff is about as expensive as it gets.
Yeah, and they know, oh, we can get birch plywood for cheap, and then turn around and, really put American companies and American workers at a disadvantage. And you mix that with the fact that before Donald Trump, every country had tariffs on the United States that prevented our workers and our companies from shipping their products and selling them into these other countries, while those other countries are sending their cheap crap into our country. And, of course, where the fraud comes in is the lying about what they're sending in, the safety of the product, and everything else. So that's fascinating. There'll be more details. That's the first I'm hearing about that division of the fraud investigations. But that's been a problem in this country for a very long time. So we'll see how that pans out.
I mean, Trump's tackling them one at a time.
Yeah, man.
And he's thinking ahead because this has been going on for a year that they put this in place, to take care of this issue.
So what they're unveiling there in Illinois is their largest ever trade fraud crackdown, which apparently I'm looking at a picture of all the things that, they had pallets and pallets of stuff stacked behind them. I don't know what the products were, but right there in the northern portions of Illinois is where they ended up making that bust. So we'll see how that plays out. Let me, though, before we hit the break, go back to Donald Trump in the White House with the Iraqi prime minister. And what he was saying there, a couple of things. One, he was talking about the way that the U.S. can get reimbursed for our actions in the Middle East region, in the Persian Gulf, and in Iran and everything else, because we've spent a lot of treasure over there fighting a good fight and trying to make sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon and to really keep that part of the world safe. And I don't know if y'all are just hearing about Donald Trump for the first time or not, but Donald Trump's not really in the business of doing stuff for free. So he's looking to get reimbursed. And what he did was he floated this idea of a 20% toll in the Strait of Hormuz, because he's made it clear at this point, like, Iran's not going to be able to control the Strait of Hormuz. You've shown that you can't be responsible with it. So we're going to take it over. We're going to charge a 20% toll to end up getting our money back, because we're going to have to deal with it, right? And that wouldn't affect us. I mean, it would affect us in a good way because we'd be getting 20%. But all of the oil coming out of the Persian Gulf is going to other parts of the world. We don't get our oil. None of our oil comes from the Persian Gulf that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. So he floats that out there. Well, then all of a sudden, and this is according to what he said during this press conference, he had wealthy Middle Eastern leaders calling him, saying, hey, instead of you doing a 20% toll, well, I don't know if they said this, but they offered Trump to invest billions and billions of dollars into the U.S. if he would take off that 20% fee in the Strait of Hormuz. And he said, you know what? He said, I like investments better than I like fees. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and that's the route we're going to take. So the Middle Eastern investors, the people from that part of the world who would have been on the receiving end of those 20% fees, are now just saying, hey, why don't we just invest billions and billions of dollars into the U.S.? And Trump's like, sounds good to me. And that will be the way for us to get reimbursed for what we're doing in the region. So, cutting deals, baby. It's just cutting deals.
And how can you find fault with that? How can you complain? How is the left going to complain about that?
Oh, they'll find a way. But when you take that and you compare it to other presidents, we've never had a president that would look to get something out of everything that would benefit the American people, because that's what it does. It benefits the American people. It's not, these investments aren't going into the coffers of politicians. These are going to be investments that are building companies, that are creating jobs, that are benefiting everyday Americans, whether it be for them being employed there or local economies, tax dollars, whatever. Like, this helps people on the ground here in the country, and previous presidents didn't think like that. You know, whether they were good intentioned or bad intentioned, they just didn't think that way. And Trump, on the other hand, he's always thinking of that. He's like, how can we get something out of this for the country and for the people of the United States? He was also asked by a reporter why the FBI seemed to be investigating Lindsey Graham's death. And he said, I feel like they're wasting their time. He said that I don't think there's any, foul play there. He says, I think it's exactly what they're telling us it is, which is a medical issue. He said, Lindsey Graham's dad died around the same age from the same exact condition, and that it was an unfortunate and unexpected situation that caused Lindsey Graham to unfortunately lose his life. So, and maybe he's right. I mean, I think that may be how it pans out, but there's nothing wrong with investigating it. I ain't gonna lie, but that's what Trump says about it. Speaking of Lindsey Graham, when we get back, we'll talk about who's going to be taking his place. Actually, today, his successor is going to be sworn in there in South Carolina. We got that for you next. I'm seeing some lower gas prices out there. Coleman, $2.89.
Dang, what about around our studio here, around this area?
Oh, it's probably still above $3 around here. What's the zip code?
35209.
35209.
That's Homewood.
All right, 35209. It looks like, yeah, 330, 340.
Dang it! Do 35242.
All right, 35242. 320s.
Dang it!
I don't need to know
try
what.
28320.
Wait, 35.
No, 28.
Hold on, I want to try Bucky's. Bucky's.
All right, what do you got? I say 299. That's my guess.
315 at Bucky's.
Bucky's. What the heck are you doing?
I mean, that's.
I'm driving to Coleman to fill.
What was the other one you said? 25.
No, 28320.
What is that?
That's where my folks live. My sister and brother-in-law.
Oh, they're in the 350s, 360s.
Okay, I gotta hit mid South Carolina is the place to get gas. I'll fill up whether I need it or not.
Yeah, so it's hovering around the $3 mark. Now, of course, if y'all see cheaper gas out there, y'all can let us know. I mean, it's gonna come down. Should have been creeping down. It should have been going down faster than it's gone, but which is why Donald Trump directed the DOJ to start looking into these gas companies and finding out why it's not going down the way it should be. But it's going to fluctuate. Obviously, things are kind of ramping back up in Iran. But if Trump if he's moving in the direction that he seems to be moving, which is to take over the Strait of Hormuz, then hey, that's on us. They're continuing to blow stuff up around that area, which I'm all for. They were doing it again last night, so maybe that's just going to be a daily thing now, which should happen. Real quick, I was talking about Lindsey Graham, which we're going to miss him. His sister, Darlene, which is the most Lindsey Graham sister name I could think of. Darlene Graham Nordone. Is her last name Nordone? Nordone. She's going to be filling his vacancy. Now, it's an interesting thing. I guess he's even mentioned it in the past that he would like his sister to take his place. She, I guess Lindsay's parents died when they were young, and so Lindsey Graham took care of his sister. He basically became her custodian and raised her. They lived in a kind of rags to riches, but they grew up poor, and parents died. He took care of her, and people of South Carolina think highly of her. So the governor, Henry McMaster, appointed her to fill his vacant seat, and that is she's going to be sworn in today, unless she's already been sworn in. It may have already happened. And so at that point, then the people of South Carolina are going to decide who ultimately fills the seat. But we'll see how that plays out.
I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way or disrespectful way, but does she have any experience?
I don't know. I don't think she's got any political experience, but she was very close with Lindsey Graham, so maybe she knows enough to, just vote with Trump. I mean, Lindsey Graham loved Donald Trump, so just if you got questions. Hey, sis, if you got questions, call the White House and ask Trump which way you need to vote, okay? I think that's all you need to know. Plus, I want to say this. Like, Lindsey Graham was one of the few that came from a place where he didn't have a whole lot and never became a rich individual. Like, Lindsey Graham never had these giant stock portfolios and he wasn't worth millions of dollars. Like, as much criticism as we gave him, he kind of was one of those guys that we applaud, which is somebody that doesn't get rich off the sea.